What happened there?
Jim?
Jim, are you there?
What's happening?
It's Sunday night and you're about to watch Tarot Nice to Meet You, the show featuring live tarot reading for comedians by, other comedians. Here are your hosts, Carly Smallman and Sarah Isles.
Hello!
Tarot, everyone! How are you doing? Welcome to Tarot Nice to Meet You. My name is Carly. This is my buddy Sarah. And we're here to celebrate the full moon with you this evening. We've got an extra special one of our full moon shows, so it's going to be freaking awesome. For those who haven't attended one of our full moon shows before, thank you for joining us. It's going to be something a bit different from our usual this evening. Yes, we've got this here. Say hello. Let us know how you are. Let us know where you are. Let us know. I don't want Sarah to speak now. I'm enjoying these rhymes, these mimes. Let us know how you're celebrating the full moon. Maybe you're celebrating it by giving a massive blowjob.
I was this close to doing it before I was like, my mum watches this show. I'm not doing it.
Oh, we didn't Thank you so much. Hello, everyone.
Back at you. Hi, Kev.
Kev lives in Sweden, if we remember, so that's probably Swedish, I'm guessing. In Dubai.
Oh, hello from Dubai. Very nice. Tarot, welcome to the show where I do mimes now, apparently.
It's just called Sarah's Miming. Nice to meet you. We're going to do something a bit different today. We've got a special guest, and he's going to be sharing his divination with us. We're getting a week off, so we'll introduce him in a moment. And of course, at the end of the show, as usual, we don't want you to miss out, especially since we've got a fabulous guest who is amazing at the tarot. We are going to be pulling cards for you. So if you would like a one-card reading later on in the show, please type into the comments box wherever you are watching. We can do a reading where we answer a specific question you have, or if you just fancy a little bit of general guidance, type on into the box and we'll help you out with all the shit that you need answered. But for now, Sarah, how's your week been?
Yeah, pretty bog standard. Not really a lot happening. Usual lockdown fun, going for walks. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Sarah.
Called Gavin.
No, Sarah loves an Italian.
Sorry, yes, I do. Yeah, sorry, there we go. That's what that is.
To make that clear for anyone who hasn't watched before, that was basically an aphrodisiac. Big fan of the Italian or the Sicilian,
because they get quite precious if they're from different areas. So yeah, just a nice, fun, bog standard week. What about you, my love?
I mean, the highlight of my week was seeing you, not in the show. We actually do live near each other. We're actual friends, believe it or not.
We're friends.
we're friends. Still friends.
Still friends.
So yeah, we've had a couple of little meetups this week. They've been pretty good. Got a bit tipsy in the park with some cocktails in a can.
Oh, what? Yes,
that was exciting.
Hi, Cheryl. Hello. Yeah, no, we did. We tried. Guys, if you haven't tried this yet, because we're a big fan of the espresso martini, and they now do them in tins, but it sounds a bit gross, but now Kahlua do them in the tins. And I'm what? Sorry?
I say it's not gross. It's really nice.
No, it wasn't. No, it was really lovely. No, we really enjoyed it. I mean, granted, we were already pretty tanked before we got on the old tinnies, but it was a classy tinny. It wasn't like a strong bow or like a white lightning. We went straight for the espresso martini in the park. Like a classy ladies park sit.
Very classy. The other dog walkers at 4 p.m. didn't even notice how cunted we were. So
no, they were. No, I mean, that moment when I started singing, I'm sure seemed very honest and normal.
So I've got to tell you, because it is the full moon, so the energies are high. In fact, tell us how you're celebrating the full moon this evening. Type into the comments box. Are you making moon water? Are you doing one of the spells and candle magic that we've done on other shows? Let us know. Sarah, magic happened to me today, and I've been waiting until now to tell you because I spoke to you earlier.
All right, go on.
So I've got these new fabulous. Where are they? I decided to buy some runes because I love divination, and I got these fabulous little, they're amazing. They're glitter runes. They're made out of resin. They're made by a local lady. I can link them below on the video for if people want to.
They look like bath bombs.
I know. She also makes bath bombs.
Oh well, don't do them in the bath then, because you're done, you know, and then you can't.
I won't try to tell my future with the bath bombs. Also,
no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, bath bombs is not the way to go. All right.
So I thought earlier on, earlier this afternoon, I decided to get my little. I've got like a little book about runes because I'm so shit at them and I don't know anything about them. And so I put the runes next to the book and I put them on the sofa, and I didn't even get the runes out in the end. I just started having a skim through, and I thought I'll just read up about like 1 or 2 runes today and just sort of keep it in bite-sized chunks. So then I was going out, leaving my house, and I decided to tidy them away. And I put my runes back on the shelf and put the book back, turned around, and there was 1 rune left out of the bag. I hadn't even opened the bag. What? And it was this rune, okay? I'm going to read you the rune. It was this rune here. You can see, there we go. Hang on, I'll hold it to my camera. Can you see that? Right, I've got my book. This isn't very professional. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this. It's called Thurasaz. I'm sorry if I've butchered the pronunciation. And it represents a thorn, and it represents protection, warning, contemplation, decisions, and luck. Basically, this rune is associated with protection and resisting danger and taking a defensive stance and protecting yourself during conflicts or when danger comes at you. Now, this drops out the thing. I decided not to put it back in the bag. I was like, maybe this means something. I'll just put it on the windowsill. When I went out, pretty much straight away after that, I ended up, I won't go into the whole boring thing of this, but I ended up in a situation of conflict where the other person was very much on the attack and I was on the defense. And it was only after I got home and saw that I'd left this out on the table next to the TV that I realized that this was fucking warning me and it was magic.
That's insane. I mean, because the moment you said protection, because obviously I know you had a situation this evening and obviously it was quite intense, but that's madness.
Isn't that fucking mad?
Especially if you've never used them before. Today's the first day. It's also a full moon. That's really intense. Oh, right. Okay. How did that make you feel?
It made me feel like I was a witch. She's a witch.
Oh, I was actually going for it made you feel protected, but okay, a witch and burn her is obviously the more aggressive.
I felt like I needed to be ducked into the lake, just to see. So that's my magical story. But we're going to bring on someone who is even more magical. I'm so excited. Our guest this evening is he's known as the psychic comedian. He is not only a fabulous performer and creates some incredible shows, but he also is a professional psychic. So we're really super lucky to have him here. His name is Peter Antoniou. And Peter Antoniou, welcome to the show. Tarot, nice to meet you.
Hello, everyone. Lovely to thank you so much for having me. It's going to be a fun evening.
Yes,
it's going to be so fun. We are so super excited. Now, Peter, can you tell our viewers about a bit about your background and tell us all the cool shit that you get up to and all the mad stuff you do?
Awesome. Yeah. So as you said, I'm sort of a psychic comedian, or comedian if you prefer, which means I do sort of live theatre shows where I involve the audience in mind reading experiments and sort of stand-up comedy and get them all nice and involved. But along with that, and like people often ask how I get involved in that, is that when I was a kid, I was just a super weird kid basically and wanted superpowers. And in that way that kids sort of do, I was like, oh, I want to be able to read minds. So let's just learn how to do that. And got super interested in sort of tarot and hypnotism and magic and psychology and sort of combine all of those to make the shows. And as part of that, I started I was 9 when I bought my first tarot deck. I was in a French supermarket, and we were walking down the aisle that has the magazines and the cards and stuff, and saw a tarot deck and didn't really know what it was at that point, but knew that I wanted it and sort of that I was sort of really drawn to it. And I've been reading tarot basically ever since. And during throughout most of my 20s, I worked on a psychic hotline as well, sort of doing.
You're getting weird confident.
I mean, all the fascinating stuff.
Thank you.
All the amazing things you said. Tell us about the psychic hotline. These things I always I'm fascinated by psychic hotlines. What was it like? Did you just do it from home, or were you in a room with loads of psychics who were
Yeah, so you do it from home. So there's two main methods that there's three, but so there's phone calls, so that what you'd imagine, someone rings up and you take a call, which you do at home. You have to route it to a landline, sort of old school.
Wow.
And yeah, your phone rings, it picks up, it says someone's paid for a 10-minute tarot reading, and then you're through to the person and you have to give them a 10-minute tarot reading, and they can ask questions or just have a general reading, and it's all sorts of people from all walks of life. I think people assume that it's just mostly like sort of old lonely grands who just want to chat, but you get conversations from all sorts of people who want readings. They also do SMS messaging, so you can like text in a number and you text back. So you log into a web portal for that and you reply via text. And there is also instant messaging, but it's sort of less common for that. And yeah, it's sort of all sorts of things with that. And yeah, there was some pretty out there questions. And
yeah, I was going to say, was there anything really weird that you're allowed to tell us? This is what I live for.
There was a few where we had one person who was very obsessed that their uncle had faked their dad's will and had like taken the inheritance, and they'd text in all the time being like, I want readings about this, and like there are legal requirements.
I was going to say, are you ethically allowed to answer questions like that?
No, like both ethically and legally can't touch it. So you'd be like, oh, you send the standard reply of like, we can't give readings about that, text in with another question, and just like at least once a week it was no, but about the inheritance though. And it was pretty intense, and it's easier over SMS because you can just sort of ignore people a little bit more. But like when you're on the phone with them and they're sort of a dog with a bone, just they really want to know about something, it's a good learning experience to sort of learn to massage those people so that they get the insight they need as opposed to what they think they want, which I think is often quite different with tarot, because like when people come with really specific questions, often like they'll say like, how can I get more money? And what they actually mean is like, how can I spend more time with my family, or how can I feel more secure? And like money is a solution to that, but it might not be the only solution. And getting them to see that is sometimes a bit of a struggle if they're sort of dead set on a question that they want to ask.
I have to say, I found that a little bit. So I was doing some online readings in lockdown 1, partly for boredom, partly through sheer panic. And one of the questions I was getting quite a lot was like, when will I meet my ideal partner? And what they wanted was for me to say, July. But really, what ends up happening is you'll meet your ideal partner when you have resolved this, when you have resolved this, when you have resolved this. And I feel sometimes people are a bit like, oh, I just wanted to be given a day.
Tuesday.
I always think like as a tarot reader, your job is like to give homework as opposed to answers. So like, it's not my job to tell you, it's my job to tell you the things you need to do in order to get that for yourself. Yeah. And I think, it's sort of sometimes a struggle when people ring up. Yeah, I had a woman on the phones who was very annoyed that her husband wouldn't do his fair share of the chores around the house.
Fair enough.
And I kept like trying to broach like, the way that you're communicating this isn't working for him. And she was just like, no, when will he start doing it? And I'm like,
when you communicate.
You're not going to fix the problem like this. But she wasn't that happy with me, but that's fine.
That's all right.
I only thought that people filtered the questions like before they actually came to you to give an answer. Like, so there was something outrageous that, someone would be filtering it all and then you just get sent the top stuff. But I guess you have to do that as part of it as well.
Yeah, you're sort of constantly filtering and monitoring, and there's like a big handbook they give you of like how to deal with certain things, because people will ring up and want health advice about their latest health scare and stuff, and like how to manage that without sort of crossing an ethical or legal.
Generally see a doctor.
Yeah, you just sort of like like health worries, see a doctor. Investment worries, see an accountant. Like I look like this. I'm an idiot. Don't ask me for life advice.
That's the thing. When you're a tarot reader, you're kind of simultaneously also like a therapist and a life coach. And so you kind of do have a bit of a responsibility. But I find it absolutely hilarious that people like want me to read for them. And me and Sarah find we love it, but we do think like, don't always trust every word we say. We're just channeling the cards, guys. Don't worry about it.
Especially when something really horrible comes up. Like, I hate it when my friends want to have a reading and you see all this stuff. I mean, it's only happened to me once where a friend of mine wanted a reading in front of her husband. This was a couple of years ago, and she was cheating on him, but I didn't know. And then it came up on the cards, and I was like, I'm pretty sure she's cheating on him. And there was nothing that I could say or do because he was in the room. And it was just like, I didn't even consider when I started doing tarot that there was those sort of ethical boundaries of, because she didn't believe in any of it, she just assumed none of it would come up. And I was just like, so now I'm always like, I'm a big fan of reading for friends and family, because the stuff you just don't want to know.
She reads for me though, because I can fucking take it.
Yeah, but I know all your dirty little secrets. Well, you don't have any.
Speaking of readings, guys, because we're getting
sidetracked.
She's chatting too much about hotlines. This is why I'm so excited about tonight's show, because usually Sarah and I give readings for loads of fabulous, brilliant comics who come on as our guests, and to celebrate the full moon, Sarah and I are having readings from Peter.
Loving it. I'm so excited.
I'm jizzing my pants. Sarah, do you want to go first? Ladies first, because you do this show every week with me. I dragged you into this.
Thank you. Yes, I will accept it. Thank you.
Hey!
Awesome. Right, awesome. So I'll grab 3 cards for you. We'll do sort of just a short 3-card reading. And for people watching at home as well, I have a slightly different approach to the cards sometimes than I think. So it's always helpful to explain to start off with as well. Like, I don't believe that the cards are sort of magical holders of the truth and what's definitely going to happen. Instead, for me, they're a lot like when you look at a piece of art and you feel different about your life for a minute, because in life we tell ourselves stories. So like, you might be in a car accident and think, oh, I'm really unlucky because I was in an accident. But you equally might think, oh, I am really lucky because I could have been much more badly hurt. And it's sort of a perspective that you look through your life with. And when we get caught in those stories, then we begin to mold our life to look the way that the story that we're telling ourselves says that we should. And what tarot does is give us an alternative story that we can apply to our life and see whether actually the way that we're looking at situations might not be the best way to serve us. So that's sort of the thrust with the cards. So we'll grab 3 cards for you.
Can I say you're already better at explaining this than we have ever been in the 6 months we've done the show? We do what? Don't tell the future. Next, we don't do.
And I think what we should do is for next shows is we'll just cut that portion of Peter saying that. We'll just put that in between, and we're like, and here's our lucky assistant Peter to explain.
We could try and mime it, Sarah. We could go like.
Yeah, sorry, Peter.
This is thousands of hours doing. Last year, so in 2020, I gave 8,000 readings. So this is just pure flight time, just sort of.
He doesn't even remember saying that. He just went into pure autopilot.
Yeah,
just pure fugue state, and just the spirits talk through me. So your first card's the 7 of Swords. That's all.
Oh, okay.
So you can see sort of in this image that this dude's sort of carrying swords, and he's a little bit overwhelmed. Those are too many swords for one dude to carry, basically. And it's a lot about sort of basically, carrying too much that we should be able to handle. So it often speaks to an idea that it's easy to take on those tasks, but with the swords there as well, I often think of those tasks as I should tasks. So those things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you tell yourself oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And I think it's easy when you're sort of in the performing arts as well. And there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment that you're spending a lot of time telling yourself oh, I should be doing this. Why aren't I running 7 podcasts? And why aren't I Twitch streaming every day like everyone else is? And it's it's those feelings of should. And you can see the dude in the image is being weighed down by those should things, and he's dropping them behind him, and he's not making the progress that he feels like he should be because he's too busy carrying those swords.
Yeah.
And the thing with those shoulds as well is that, like swords, they end up cutting you as well because they're not the things you're invested in. So they end up sort of bleeding your energy and making you feel a bit you don't have the same buzz. I'm sure when you perform, I bet you come off stage and you feel buzzed and energized and you feel great. Whereas doing the sort of I should be doing that during the last sort of 12 to 18 months, you don't have that feeling of that was great. Let's next week, apart from this show, obviously you love this show and this energizes you.
Love it.
And it's about sort of dealing and acknowledging with that idea of like, maybe the shoulds aren't always the things that are going to serve you, and taking a stop, which actually brings us on really nicely to our next card, the Eight of Swords. We're just working our way up. So now this seems pretty fucking dire, but it's not necessarily as bad as it looks. I think that like often cards that can look really dire, so everything has its own. So and
we're
it's
just
about
getting
like,
the giggles. Can I say? Sorry to interrupt you, Peter, because before the show we were saying to Peter, we just keep getting these cards, the kind of the cunt cards we were calling them. That they show up and you go, oh, fucking cunt, and
major, minor, cunt arcana. All the classics.
Oh God.
Giggles.
But yeah, so the Eight of Swords, like it's, as you can see, like the swords have now transformed into sort of a bit of a prison. So that's sort of, if we're looking at the present now, it's sort of a little bit of a prison. Have you been feeling like very frustrated as well of like, you're spending all this time doing the should stuff that like, you don't get to do the fun stuff anymore. And you just like, you get to the end of the day and you think like, oh, it'd be great if I could like write a new comedy bit or whatever. But you're just so fucking exhausted. You're like, I don't know, just Doctor Who and some wine. Like that's fine. Stare at David Tennant.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Doctor Who, but it is pretty much, that's all like, because there's nothing else to do. And like, I was actually feeling bad that I don't really do a lot of Zoom gigs, because I know Carly does, and I just can't do them because I don't get the same buzz from it. And I hate it. The whole idea just makes me want to just die inside.
You don't have to, because you have a real job.
I hate.
Which you hate, but like that's the thing. Like the Zoom gigs, they are soul destroying, and so if you're soul destroyed in a different way.
Yeah, so we're all just slowly being destroyed in different ways.
I think. Well, welcome to capitalism. This has become a socialist propaganda now. Overthrow the government. Yeah, so it's, and I think like at this point where you're feeling sort of trapped in by all the shoulds and all the sort of holding back, it's about stopping and thinking like, what are the limiting beliefs that you've put there? Because like in the Eight of Swords, we saw in the previous card, like you've brought all these swords, you've placed all those that are stopping you. So taking a stop to be like, actually, what are the self-limiting beliefs that I've applied there that are stopping me from doing the fun things and getting more involved? Because if you can begin to break those down, then you can focus more time on doing those things. But it can be easy to feel like, you know, well, the industry demands this of me, so I should be doing this. When actually, like, often those people who have those breakthroughs are the people who aren't following those routes, who have looked at that and gone, actually, that's not for me. You know, the sort of the Daniel Kitson vibe of like, oh, I'm just not going to gig on Fridays and Saturdays because I hate those people. And like taking that approach. And it's about giving yourself the freedom to say, like, actually, I'm going to take that approach and I'm going to do that.
I've been saying this to her. I'm sorry. I'm so happy you're saying this to her. I've been like sitting here like going, like the cards are also telling you. I'm so happy you're saying this. And I'm, Sarah does know this herself, but it's just nice to have it up there on the screen for her.
Yeah, sometimes it's good just for that little reassurance.
That's Carly saying, so basically I've said this to Sarah several times and she's not listening to me, so I'm really glad that now someone else is on the screen for everyone to see.
Don't worry, Ben, my reading's next. You can feel smug at me.
It brings us on to our last card, though, which is the Six of Wands. So you can see there that the swords have sort of transformed into wands now. So it's less about a symbol of sort of sharpness and damage, and like it's growing things. You can see that sort of even the sticks there are sort of sprouting, so it feels like a growing and a recognition of progress and the ability to sort of expand. And also that this dude on the horse is like, he's got other people carrying the wands with him. So it's about sort of handing off some of those responsibilities as well, like making it a bigger pool of people that you hand tasks over to. Because I get the impression that you're probably not a great person for delegation. Like you like to do a lot of stuff yourself, hands-on, sort of hands in lots of pies. And part of that movement from the sort of the shoulds to the like, how can we embrace ourselves, is understanding like what parts are your genius zone and just saying like, yeet, not for me, hand all the other things to other people, and beginning to acknowledge that actually those areas of sort of success come from having the support and the space to let you grow. So letting Carly take more of the work sometimes, letting her.
I'll take it. I can take it. Give me the work.
If she's going to tell you that you should be embracing your own route forward, then she can pick up the slack. That's.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I love your interpretation of that card, Peter. It's it like adds on to, like, with the supporting of the people going around. So this is getting a bit tarot dorky. I will be funny in a minute, but I'm just enjoying having Peter here to discuss this with. I'd never really thought of the card that way, with that, you know, these guys that are going in the parade with the Victorious
carrying them. Yeah.
And I love that. I love that idea of support and delegation and bringing people along with you to that victory moment where you're finally feeling really good about yourself. I love that. Ooh, I love it.
That was
sort of like.
Sorry, go on.
A lot of the way when I'm teaching tarot, because I do a lot of sort of teaching tarot workshops, and a lot of it is about the idea that, like, I'm not a great fan that the cards have like one static meaning, because like things mean different things in different contexts. Like being naked on a nudist beach is different than being naked in a supermarket, sort of thing. So it's about sort of pulling those meanings out of the cards and saying, like, right, in this context, what does this sort of picture mean? And I think, sort of it's nice and looking and being like a detective and looking at the image and being like, what are all the meanings this could carry, and sort of identifying with the right one.
Fabulous.
That was really great.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm so glad you differentiated about the nudist beach from the supermarket, because producer Jim actually does need to hear that. So thank you.
It's about time someone mentioned it, to be honest, isn't it? It's been going on way too long. But,
I mean, if I look like Jim, I'd be naked all the time as well. So fair play to him.
Oh God. Thank you for that reading, though. That actually was very insightful. So yeah, lots to think about.
No problem at all.
Exciting. Oh, so wonderful. Oh, I'm scared for mine now, because I just
let's just go small.
I knew it. And now Sarah's going to go, yeah, I knew it, back to me. I can't wait to see the expression on her face. I'm so nervous now.
Awesome. So Carly, your first card is Temperance. We're coming out with the big swingers first. So we're starting with sort of
Sagittarius as well. So this card comes up quite a bit for me.
Yeah, it's a sort of balance and moderation and finding that purpose. But I think something that's often sort of overlooked with Temperance is that it's striking a balance, but there's only one person in the image. And I think that, like, you're sort of like a very sort of centrally focused person, like you're saying, like, find your own way. That I think that you sort of take that on board as well a lot. But I think that then one of the things that trips you up is that when other people then get involved, that balance that you've sort of built with yourself goes completely out the window, because you're so used to being a self-sustaining entity that when there's someone else to create temperance with, there's sort of a bit of a power struggle, and it's not the balance that you're used to. So it goes from like being very calm and chill to like, what the fuck is going on, very quickly for you.
Wow, that's very true of me. That's very true of me. Sarah, want to give it I told you so now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to save it up till the end once we've done it. So I can do one big told you so, because I think if I do a told you so after everyone, that's tedious. So I'm just going to top it up.
So I think it's a lot about sort of like taking your ball and going home. And I think that's something that like has been keeping you back in this sort of similar way to Sarah's sort of, you've been thinking like, oh, I want to build this thing, but I want to build this thing, as opposed to sort of going back to the Six of Wands that Sarah had. Like you've also not quite got that group of people that you're sort of, your collective. We're building back towards a collective. Communism rules. And it's that sort of, it's that feeling of like you've struck a nice balance, and to move forward and grow, you don't need to stop having that internal balance, but nicely building onto our next. The Two of Cups, we're taking those two cups that we saw in Temperance, but we're now splitting it between two people. So we've taken the sort of, I'm one person with two cups, I'm holding on to it. And we can imagine that if this is Temperance, that you're handing a cup off to someone else. And it's about sort of finding the time to build those unions and build that nurturing. And I think it can be quite difficult, because if people's communication styles are different, that it's about navigating that as well as navigating the project, which then becomes like sort of double the labor. And I think it can be quite easy to say like, oh, they just don't get it. Like they're not on the same wavelength. But it's because you're on sort of different communication modes. But actually like them not quite getting it and them not communicating in the same way is what you want. That's why you need someone else, because if they're exactly the same as you're back to the temperance mold. You've just got two of you then, as opposed to being like, actually, it's really useful to be challenged by someone who maybe doesn't get it, or maybe like thinks in a different way. And I'm sure that like with this show, like I found doing sort of live streams with tarot and like being a comedian stuff, that like finding that balance of people being like, oh, I thought this was just going to be funny, versus the people who are like, why isn't this just spiritual enlightenment? Why does she keep saying the C word? Like finding that balance of things. And like,
we like to appall and educate here. But Tara, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's what the BBC's missing. This is
absolutely.
But, yeah, and finding that balance and like being pushed and made to feel uncomfortable, and like not in a like beyond your boundaries way, but just in someone saying like, actually that doesn't work for me. Or it's very easy, even when you're doing like readings for yourself, to like slightly skip over the difficult questions and be like, oh, I'll deal manana, I'll deal with that tomorrow. But then if you have someone there who's a roadblock saying like, no, you have to figure this out before we can move forward, then, and that's sort of why like for comedians, the Edinburgh Fringe is so great, because that is the like, well, it's this date, and if it's not done, then you fucked, so deal with it. And like when we're out of that system, it's sort of a little bit easier to be like, oh, I'll write some new jokes, I'll work on my career a bit later on, and then, but yeah, so building that group of people who are going to challenge you and don't see things the same way you do. Which brings us on, we're back to the heavy hitters.
Ooh.
I always get this card, and I'm missing something because it keeps coming up, and I'm obviously not learning something from it.
I think it's a lot about sharing and teaching stuff as well. So it's about finding that balance of like where I'm saying before, where you need someone to sort of really, really challenge you. This sort of teaches about sort of sharing and educating other people. And I think that often, and it's very common in sort of the creative endeavors, that when you have a really good idea, you want to sort of hold it close, because we've all had our good ideas pilfered, and it's easy to hold on to them. And I think a lot about it is like sharing that, knowing that actually sharing this information and sharing the good ideas is going to help educate you a lot more as well. Because often it's I know that when I started teaching tarot workshops, I learned so much more just from having to stop and think about what I was doing and explain it to other people, and you break it down in a different way. And it's the same with sort of good ideas. The moment you have to explain a good idea or a new project you want to work on to someone else, all the bits that like you've ignored or you've looked over or are a bit chunky, like you instantly see. And I think that it's very easy, especially when we're all still sort of in our houses or occasionally taking a walk in a park, getting drunk on tinnies, that it's so much easier just to hold on to those ideas and be like, oh, I'll just make it a bit more perfect. And the thing with sort of perfectionism is that you end up being like, oh, there's always something more you could be doing. And there's probably like 6 or 7 projects you've got in your notebook that you're like, it's not quite perfect yet, so I won't do it. And the sort of,
oh my God, yes. I've got a few things that I have been thinking of doing for a while, and I'm like, I just don't think I can do it, or I just don't think I've got the knowledge to do that yet. But yeah, what you're saying is making so much sense.
And a lot of that knowledge isn't going to come until you start doing it. And then the more you do it, the more you go, oh, actually, I did know loads of stuff, or actually, like, that was an easy fix. And it's from being willing to sort of teach and share that you gain that knowledge. So just sort of opening yourself up to both like more people and then just more projects, and being willing to look a bit stupid sometimes, because that's, we only grow outside of our comfort zone. So I
don't think she struggles with looking stupid, to be honest. I think she embraces that like a real boss.
No, that is true, Sarah. Sarah knows.
Carefully constructed stupidity. That's the sort of
yes. No, to be fair, I don't mind looking stupid, as long as I appear sort of quite clever while I do it. So yeah, the real thick thing, like being like, I don't know anything about this, like, you know, that sort of thing, rather than kind of clown stupid. I think I've got to get better at
yeah,
that.
I think we're all happy looking like sort of Buster Keaton, but it's the moment that we're like, oh, I don't know, I don't know anything. And sort of, I think that's one thing that sort of tarot's taught me a lot, is like just being willing to be like, I don't know.
To be fair, that is one of my favourite things that I love to say. I realised probably when I was about 31 that I didn't actually know anything. And before that, I thought I knew things. It turns out that my sphere of knowledge, and probably the same with everyone else, is actually really shit, is the best way to describe it. It's very limited. And yeah, but it's also just being more prepared to admit that to everyone else apart from yourself as well, and to ask questions and be more curious and sort of take from these various other people who maybe know about something that you want to know more about. So yeah.
And I think even sometimes when someone tells you stuff and you think, I think all of this is wrong, and that at least gives you like a good indication of like, no, like not that route. We've saved time exploring that. That's bullshit. We'll move on. And it's sort of, yeah, it's always worth sort of nailing down on that stuff. But yeah, so it's basically both readings could be summed up with just do more. It will be fine. Just.
Do you know what? It's because we had this discussion when we were having our tinnies, either in the park or before, is that it is a case of there's all this stuff that we want to do, like especially with like stand up and the industry, but because we aren't what the industry wants, because we don't look a certain way, we don't act a certain way, that it's very difficult to feel like you can carry on in an industry that has already decided that you're too old, or you know, you're all of these things. And so I think we were discussing it, we were like, we need to find like a different route round. And obviously we love this show and we think this show is loads of fun, but it's like it's also something that no one's ever done. But there's always that part of us that just goes, oh, but you know, we're not like 20, and you know, we don't look like such and such who's killing it on the circuit, but they have no jokes. And it's like, no, but we are funny. You know?
We are funny, and also there is a very limited number of comedians who could actually do a Tara Nice to Meet You show, and 3 of the 4 of them are right here, right now. So we need to embrace that.
And we're befriending them slowly so that, you know, you can't take it over.
Get them on as a guest.
Be friends.
No, Peter, thank you. They were absolutely brilliant readings, really insightful. Our pleasure. Now, I want you to talk to us about your new divination tool, because I know you love all kinds of divination, and you have created something called the Icon that, when you told me about, just sounded amazing. So I'm gonna give this to you to take it away.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, like 8,000 tarot readings last year. And like when I was touring around as well, like having tarot decks with me, I was going through sort of decks at an alarming rate. I ended up buying I was like the Miss Cleo power deck from like, so do you remember Miss Cleo? She was like an American tarot reader.
Why do I know Miss Cleo? Why do I know the name?
But yeah, they're like fire sale, terrible, sort of ancient Egyptian style tarot cards.
That's the deck yes, I do know the ones you mean. Yes.
And yeah, I was going through like hundreds of decks. So I designed a card because also like I do a lot of sort of corporate tarot readings. So I teach like businesses how they can use the same approach to tarot. But obviously, like if you go into a business and say to a CFO, so the 4 of Wands, they're like, they're off. They're not interested. But the same process like can be used to actually like really unlock creative thinking and problem solving. So I designed my own version of sort of the tarot deck. That's in fact I'll just do this. Boop. So this is the Icon. It's a coin. It's got unique symbols all around the outside, and you can see that like a lot of the symbols sort of have obvious meaning. So, you know, you can see like there's obviously a moon there, there's obviously a lightning bolt there, there's a knife and fork, and they both relate back to the tarot. But also, if you've never experienced the tarot before, it's very easy to sort of say to someone, look at a knife and fork, what does that mean to you? Like what maybe it means like being full, like being fulfilled. Maybe it means like wanting your slice of the pie. And sort of getting people to engage with that in the same way that when I'm teaching tarot, I'm saying, you know, like, look at the image. What does it mean? Like, if this was a comic book and you were just looking at a square, what does that story mean? you just give them like one abstract symbol. So, and then obviously it's got sort of a yes and no on as well. So, you know, if you've just got a quick question, you think like, oh, should I have chips for dinner? Yes. What, chips for dinner then? And it just
So you're asking
starts
the real serious questions.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, obviously only the most important. But
Only those hardcore.
I would just be asking that every day and thinking it was like a thing you had to do with that divination tool. But that's just because I fucking love chips.
yeah, it's chips powered. That's how it works. Is only starch. But yeah, it's not about sort of teaching people, because I think that a lot of the stuff that I do, especially in like my stand-up show, is taking my years of experience with the tarot and then not actually needing the tarot anymore, because I can like look at someone and be like, oh, they're wearing a cup style necklace, so it's the 4 of cups for you, and just sort of pulling that out of my mind. And it's the same sort of training with this, is being able to look at sort of any abstract symbol. Because the ultimate aim of the icon, as well as when I'm teaching tarot, is that you should be able to divinate from anything. So like, I should be able to like, I don't know, pick up, here's a packet from the phone protector that I had before, and like, oh, there's an eye there. So what does the eye mean? Well, for me, like, eye's about seeing, and boom, you're into a reading.
Wow.
Because having that approach to understanding divination then means that you're not actually tied to a specific divination method. It's the ability that you bring, and a lot about the icon is training that in people and getting them to sort of move from cards that have strict meanings to, with the icon you get a book as well that teaches like, here are what some of the meanings are, but also here's how to approach pulling meaning out of stuff so that you can feel confident in doing, and accepting that, like we were saying, there's no wrong answer with this. Like, if I look at something and pull a different meaning out than you look at something and pull a different meaning out, it's because I needed that meaning at the moment, in the same way that you needed that meaning. And the sort of the icon carries that.
When you use the icon, is the idea, just to explain how it works practically, is the idea that you kind of flip it and then you're drawn to a symbol, and then that's the symbol you need to understand something from? Is that the idea behind it?
So I'll do like a flip or a spin on the table if we're at sort of a big table, and then it lands, and I'll just say like, right, what's either the first symbol that's drawn to you or the symbol that's closest to you, like just whichever one you're drawn to, grab that. Right, now let's pull that apart. What does that mean? And like, if you've got a question in mind, like, let's focus in on that question. What does the map symbol mean to that question? Like, maybe it means you need to figure out how you're going to get to that thing, and begin to explore it like that. Because I'm a big fan of like getting people involved in the readings as well, because the more ownership they take of the stuff as well, the easier it is for them actually to act on it.
Yeah. Diane Spencer, friend of the show.
Hello, Diane.
We love Diane.
So I think it is a lot about sort of synchronicity. So Diane's asking, is this synchronicity type stuff? And I think like a lot of it's about sort of the synchronicity, and then also just building synchronicity into it as well. Like, so I think that, you know, as humans, like if you're sat at home now, if you look around your room and just try and count, well, I'll give you 3 seconds. Think of everything in your room that's brown. So just look around your room, find brown, find brown, find brown. Okay, now stop. So if I asked you now how many red things are in your room, you don't know, because you weren't looking for the red things, you were looking for the brown things. And it's the same sort of thing with that sort of synchronicity. Often we're looking for stuff that confirm the way that we're thinking about our lives, but in flipping a coin and being forced to deal with a random symbol, we're now saying like, actually zoom out, what else can we be looking at? And it's at that moment that you often see the answers that have been sat in front of you the whole time. In the same way that when you're giving your friends like relationship advice, and like it's obvious to you but they just can't see it because they're telling themselves a story that you're not involved in, so you can see it much easier.
That's also something Carly and I like to do with each other a lot.
Yeah, just tell each other
what are you doing?
Why are you so weird and fucked up in the head? I don't know. I think it's to do with my father, but I don't know.
Yeah, we both have daddy issues. It's really unhelpful.
I'm not sure there's a symbol specifically for daddy issues, but I mean,
there must be. How will we know? How will we know?
I think we should just assume.
Just assume it's the daddy issues.
I love this. And Pete, you've designed this amazing divination tool, so it's like really innovative and interesting and new, and people can buy it, can't they? Where can they get it? Because it does look really cool, and I actually want to buy one. So if anyone would like to donate to the show financially, my PayPal is on my website, and if you'd like to buy me an icon because you love me so much, it's www.carlyswolman.com. Anyway, sorry, Pete, not to try and hijack this for gifts, but tell us where.
In the scrolling bar at the bottom, where it's got all my socials, there's also my my Ko-fi page. So it's ko-fi.com/Peter Antoniou, and then there's a shop on there that has sort of the icon, and you get the coin and a PDF that goes with it that explains everything. And I'm always available on email, just to, like, if you're not sure how it works or you want a bit of clarification, then I'm always available sort of for all that stuff. So it's.
Have you considered covering them in glitter?
I mean,
just as apparently that's very popular with people in Beckenham.
I could do a special edition Carly Smallman glitter
edition.
I just can't use a divination tool unless it's spangly.
That's her rules.
It's my rules. Yeah. My rules.
That's her rules.
Yeah, I find it very calming. Like, I'm quite like a fidgety, anxious person, so like having so, and like often if you're in public and you're like playing with a tarot deck, people look,
yeah.
Whereas like this is, he's just playing with a coin and sort of stuff, and then
it's a sneaky way of getting away with it. Yes,
I love that. So yes, go to Peter's shop. You can buy his icon coin, or you can also buy tarot readings on there, if I remember correctly.
You can buy tarot readings. I'm also doing a how to give tarot readings workshop on the 1st of May as well. So if you're watching and thinking, oh, I wish I knew a bit more about tarot, and think I want to listen to Peter talk for 2 hours about all sorts of stuff, you can also hear a recording of a psychic hotline phone call that I gave someone that's involved in that, with full permission of the person I read for. is a teaching tool.
I've already plugged it.
Thank fuck. So yes, visit his shop. It's absolutely fabulous. And please buy me and Sarah a coin each. Anyway, so we're gonna finish the show this full moon, as we always finish the show, which is with one card readings. I feel like I want to let Peter take the read, just because I love hearing his. I love hearing.
Good.
I just love it
every week.
And because me and Sarah have learnt together, like when we read, like sometimes our interpretations are really similar, just because we read together quite a lot, and sort of Sarah taught me lots about the cards when I started learning how to do it. So yeah, Jim, have we got any questions? And Peter, if you want to take the lead, and if you and Sarah, if you want to
sure.
jump, of course.
Okay, so well, apparently Peter can't take the lead on this one. Next time, Peter. Peter can. Oh, okay.
I can't compete with Carly. This is.
You really can't. She's got the fabulous hair. There's nothing you can do.
Funny. That was such a. Oh, a card is. I think my energy is in my deck. I think it's my energy because I got temperance.
Ah.
Kev, I feel like this might be for me. This keeps happening. I keep putting my energy in the deck. But if it is genuinely for you, which hopefully it is, you'll have heard what Peter's got to say about it. This is just to briefly surmise. This is a card of balance. This is a card of moderation, and sort of finding out what you want, and kind of having that kind of, I always imagine temperance is kind of like a Buddhist monk, like they're moderate, they're patient, and they're patient with themselves and with their feelings. So I kind of see the card like that, kind of like a true balance. You can see he's pouring his water between the cups, and if he was out of balance, he wouldn't be able to make the water hit the cup. It would just splash back into the lake. Anything anyone else want to add here? I know, Peter, you've already had a little chat of the old temperance card.
You know, I think the sort of the Buddhist monk sort of approach is good as well. It's also often a nice reminder that sort of stress is a bit infectious as well. Like when you're around stressful situations, it begins to infect you. Even if like you have like a friend or a colleague who's like a stress head, it's very easy to sort of like catch stress from them. So it's a nice reminder as well to like sort of step back and be like, is this actually my stress, or have I just sort of caught it from people around me, and taking that time to sort of reboot like that.
I love that, Kev, as an interpretation. Sarah, is there anything you want to add on temperance?
No, I think that's nicely covered. Honestly, going to sit back and enjoy myself now. I'm going to enjoy the show.
Great old time. All she needs is a hot Latino in a pair of underwear, bringing her a glass of prosecco. She'll be weak tonight.
Oh, why would you say that? That's like the
Sorry,
perfect
I realised.
evening. And now I'm like,
sorry, it's out of order. It's out of order. It's all she craves. So Cleve, I hope that's helped. Just focus on balance. Oh, we've got Stephen Geary. Sorry, I'm late. Thank you, Stephen. I like your manners there. Can I have a card, please? Peter, do you want to draw a card for Stephen?
Yeah, let's grab a card for Stephen. 10 of coins there, Stephen, making it rain. So this is the 10 of coins is a card sort of a lot about sort of contentment and accomplishment, and I think it's very easy to always be one to the next project. You know, like it's I've done that, but like the next thing. And actually, the 10 of coins is a really nice reminder just to stop and think about all the things you've actually achieved up to this point, because it can be very easy to sort of be constantly seeking that next hit of achievement. Whereas rather than looking, it's a bit like when you're walking to somewhere new and you think like, oh, this is such a massive walk. But rather than thinking how much further do I have to walk, stopping and being like, actually, how far have I walked up to this point? And it's a nice sort of reminder just at this point to maybe just chill out, Stephen. Stop worrying about being late to a live stream show. You can catch up on the YouTubes and just being like, oh, okay, just stop for a second and think like, oh, I've done this, I've done that, and like I deserve to celebrate and I deserve to feel celebrated, and sharing that with other people. I think sometimes it can feel a little bit eggy to be like, I did great jobs and I've been amazing, but like there's a difference between sort of celebrating your achievements and being a dick about it. And I think that given that you've been so polite in sort of apologizing for being late, I don't think that you'd be a dick about it. So just sort of celebrate your achievements up to this point. You've earned it, even if you've been robbed of an hour of sleep.
There we go. Getting into the Tara Nice to Meet You style of reading and calling the viewers a dick. Finally.
That's what I thought. He's gone straight in without no bullshit. Don't be a dick. This is what you want to do. And I love it. I love it. You've embraced it so fully and utterly. Wonderful.
So pleased. Oh, Matt, Jim, any more, babe? Oh, Sarah Ellis. Now, we love Sarah. She's a regular as well. Hello, Sarah, my darling. Nice to have you back. Pete, do you want to do her cards? I'm just going to let you do it. I'm just quite enjoying not doing it. Is that bad?
I might give you a spin of the icon just for a little demonstration as well.
Let's have a go.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got the concentric circles there. Let's see if I can get this to show on screen. Ooh, that way around. No. Concentric circles. They're terrible. Cool. So that's a lot about sort of separating things, and I think that it can be difficult to sort of keep things in their own rings, and a lot about that is sort of self-sacrifice, being the person to say like, oh, I'll do that. And with the concentric circles, I often think of it as like sort of different layers of boundaries, and it can be very easy when you're sort of a giving and caring person to not say like, no, that's outside of my circle, like outside of my remit, I'm not touching it. And knowing the difference between like, the close members of family who you would sort of step outside your first ring of boundaries to be like, actually, I'll take care of that. I've got a few extra spoons, I can look after you. And those people who just seem to show up when they want you to step out of your extra boundaries, and finding that balance. And especially like, it's been a tough 12 months for a lot of people. And those who are naturally giving and naturally caring are even more burnt out because they're trying to do twice as much as everyone else to look after those people. When actually like stopping and thinking about all those sort of circles of like comfort and being like, how far out am I willing to go for different groups of people, and finding those different boundaries for being like, well, you're just a friend, so like I'll do a bit of help for you, but then I'll stop. Whereas like my family, I'll go a bit further for you because like you're going to look after me when I'm old and senile, so I'll care a bit more. And finding those boundaries and setting those really firmly for you will actually help you be less burnt out, less stressed, because you're finding that definition. Because you don't have to save everyone. Like that's not your job. Your job is just to try and look after yourself, and then be willing to go a little bit further for a select group of people, not everyone. And finding that difference is going to be really helpful just for that sort of burnout feeling.
That's amazing advice. I love that advice. Do you know what's so funny as well? Like, not funny. It's not like, haha, I'm not laughing my head off. But with interesting is more the word I should say. This is what I love about your new divination tool, because when you said concentric circles, the first thing that flashed to my mind was completely different. It was like, like a target in Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, like, because there's such a wide range of images and you can interpret them differently. Oh man, I want to go on it. It looks really good.
Yeah, so I think it's I think sometimes an easier mindset for people to get into. Thank you, Sarah. I'm glad. Yeah, won't let people take the piss. Yeah,
at least
don't let them be dicks, Sarah.
Yeah, no dicks allowed.
No dicks allowed.
With permission. As Sarah and I firmly say, no dicks allowed.
But yeah, I think it's easier to get into the mindset when it's more of an abstract symbol than like with the cards, because there's so much there's a feeling that there's definitely a right answer, and it can be somewhat of a breakthrough to get people to be like, well, what else could it mean? Whereas if it's just concentric circles, you're like, oh, it's a bit like looking at clouds in the sky. Like we all did that as kids. We all know we can do that. So it's much easier to get into it because you've done it before.
I love that. That's so interesting. Yeah, I love that because you're so right. There's so many things that concentric circles could be. It could be that idea of boundaries. It could be a target. It could be like ripples in a pool. It could be so many different things. And yeah, I think it's really cool. I'm just like fangirling Peter at the moment. Sorry, Peter. We've worked all the time, so it's very uncomfortable for him.
No, I'm loving it. This is the most attention I've had in 12 months. I just sit at home being like, people used to clap for me, and now I just applaud the dishwasher.
I shit you not. I taught my dog to look at me recently. What is Sarah?
Oh, no! Oh no! Jesus Christ!
Like, what does your dog do? He can think I'm fabulous.
No, Jim, any more cards?
Yeah, any more cards, Jim, before I give away my entire mental breakdown?
Nice one, Sarah.
Oh yes, Sarah loves the ladies. But don't let them be see you next Tuesday, Sarah. It's the same principle. Only see you next Tuesdays that you allow. Cheryl Beresford. Hello, Cheryl. A card for Cheryl or a flip of the icon, whichever you prefer.
Oh, that's.
Sarah,
we'll grab a card.
Card.
We'll grab a card. Why not? Oh, 4 of Cups.
Oh.
Sort of meditation and contemplation. And I think it's a lot about sort of, rather than, you can see that sort of, like when I look at this picture, the dude always looks like he's having a bit of a strop, like he's sort of sat there and he's got 3 cups and the universe is offering him a 4 and he's like, oh, I don't even want that. And it's a lot about sort of your difference of focus in the sort of what it is that you actually want and what opportunities there are around you, because I think often we overlook opportunities because they're not exactly as we imagined them. But often, like, a surefire way to become disappointed is to have an incredibly clear image of what you want and then expect that is exactly what's going to happen. And I often think that, like, with the 4 of Cups.
So that's the 4 of Pentacles, Jim.
4 of Pentacles, Jim.
Close.
Jim's drinking.
Jim.
We all are, Jim. Jim!
Yeah, like
Cups.
Jim the battery!
Jim.
like the beer. But yeah, because it's not like, I often like think, because it's, he's already got cups, he doesn't want another cups, he's a bit pissed off, and it's sort of a reminder, like, it's okay to become, there we are, it's okay to become a bit dissatisfied with what you've got, but rather than like having a bit of a strop like this dude, it's about using it as fuel to change things as well, to be like, right, this isn't what I want. So rather than being like, oh, this is shit, being like, right, let's change it. Let's like, this isn't what I imagined. And I accept that, like, having a perfect picture of what I want moving forward might not be ideal, having like a rough shape of it and then being like, right, let's forge towards that. Because I think, like, I know that I'm guilty of this as well, that you sort of, especially in this pandemic, realize not what I want and I don't like it, and like have a strop, and sort of like the Zoom shows being sort of soul destroying. Like, I found that very early on, that like, especially like doing the interactive mind reading stuff when you need people to mute and unmute themselves and it becomes a nightmare, but being like, right, okay, I hated that. So what I did was then use that as fuel to build something, like build a Zoom show that actually I really enjoyed, and be like, right, what don't I like about this, and use it, as opposed to just sort of being pissed off that it existed. And I think it's tempting and like seductive to fall into that, like, oh, it's shit, but also it won't change, and a reminder of like actually using that as fuel to change.
It's great.
Yeah, accept the cup, babe, and just see what happens. Do you want a cup? No. Do you want a cup? Oh, maybe. Just, be open to more cups. We have one cup. We have one left. It's for Diane.
For Diane.
No worries if not. For a friend of the show, Diane Spencer. We'll absolutely motherfucking read you a card, babe. We love you. I say we. Once again, it'll be Peter. Ah.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. As you were.
So we've got the moon for you.
Oh.
Woo.
And it's a full moon.
A full moon. So so I think the moon for me is often about sort of like hope and sort of renewal and cycles and stuff. And I think that it can be like, the moon often gives us sort of, when you think of it in a literal sense, like guidance in the night, like you're in pitch black, but the moon's shining and you can see, and it's sort of a reminder that as the moon sort of goes through these cycles, and as a full moon tonight, that like we can get caught in situations where we feel like things are coming to an end, like, oh, I had a good run of luck, or things were going really well and now it feels like it's coming to an end. But rather than thinking of that as sort of a linear thing, like looking at the moon and thinking about the sort of the cycles of the moon, and it gets big, but then it gets small, but then it gets big again, and reminding that actually like the run of things going well, or the feeling of like, oh, I've made these few successes, but it feels like it's slipping away, is actually a reminder that it's like when you go to the gym and like you start off and lifting 5 pounds. I don't know, I don't go to the gym, but like lifting 5 pounds is really hard.
5 pounds. I was like, maybe. Well, no, you're in the States. They do it in pounds. To be fair, they do it in pounds.
Yeah. So, honestly, I don't know how much. I don't know what the temperature is. I don't know how much anything weighs in this country. It's a nightmare.
Basically.
Don't let this guy read your mind. He doesn't know anything.
He doesn't know measurements. He doesn't know if it's milliliters. He's got no idea. He's got all the
centiliters. What is a centiliter? To be fair, I don't actually know most of these either. I'm just deflecting at this stage.
That's what Google's for.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, sort of finding that, like, so, like, let's say 5 pounds is a weight, like lifting it at the start is really hard, but then it becomes easy. But then in order to grow again, you need to move to 10 pounds, and then it's hard again. So it can feel like, oh, well, all of my gains are useless because that. And it's like, it's easy to see in that sort of example because, oh, the numbers got bigger. But when it's our projects and what we're striving for, it's so much harder to see that, like, oh, the fact that I'm finding this more difficult or I'm not making progress anymore isn't because I'm going back. It's just because like my goal has leveled up. So I'm now back at the beginner stage again. And it's that sort of reminder that rather than being a bit dejected, that actually like things are hard and it's shit, going like, oh, it's just because my goal's leveled up and this is the start of the next cycle and I'll get to that point again. And that reminder can actually be really, really enlightening and freeing as well, to be like, oh, I don't need to worry about that. And you're free to make sort of chances and take risks, because when you've had some success, it can be really scary to do a bit of a chance and break out. So you're desperately trying to hold on to that. And especially if it feels like it's slipping away and you sort of grab it even tighter. Whereas when you're looking at it as a cycle and like, oh, I'm just back at the beginner stage, but on the next level, then it's easy to be like, oh, so let's take the same approach. Let's take some chances because we're just leveling up. So that's sort of a nice reminder for Diane there as well, hopefully.
Oh, I love that. Diane, I hope you found that useful, you absolutely beautiful, wonderful dream woman. Looks like you were pretty spot on there for Cheryl. I haven't been in that situation that's been going on and been in two minds about a change and doing something about it after letting it go on for some time. Oh, well, there you go, babe. There you go.
Hopefully that's some good insight for you, Cheryl, and good luck with making those changes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've come to the end of our show. We've overrun slightly, but we don't mind because we're having such a bloody good time. Before we go, usually we ask our fabulous guests to plug. I know you've got loads of things. So remind us again when your tarot workshop is.
And Tarot Workshop's the 1st of May, and you can buy tickets on the Ko-fi site that's scrolling down there. And it's $25, which is like £19, I think, and it's sort of over 2 hours of tuition and all the jazz. Whether you've given readings before or you've never given them before, in the 2 hours, I'll get you to a point where you could be a guest on this show if you're a comedian. That's the.
Oh, my niece has just commented and I want to cry. This is my niece, Shane. Hi, Auntie. Your hair looks so shiny.
It does look shiny.
It is super shiny tonight.
You're nailing it.
Thank you. Oh my God. Sorry, are we zooming in to look at the?
Yep, Jim, come on. Nice job, Jim. Yep, great.
That side, that's good. I'm going receding a little bit there, but we'll just go this side. This side. I don't need to see the old receding. It's not. I'm not even receding. I've just always had a giant, horrible forehead. Anyway, please.
Thanks for watching the show.
Please sign up to be this tarot workshop. Yeah, but you can get that. You can get his icon. It's all scrolling along the bottom. Please support him because we are all locked down this together. So support him and learn something incredible yourself. Sarah, do you have anything you would like to plug?
Just follow me on Instagram. Still trying to build that following, but yeah, there we go. Scrolling on the bottom there, and I'm going to work on my limiting beliefs.
Follow Sarah and her limiting beliefs. She'll put them all over her social media. She's fucking shameless. And please, I'm going to plug, please listen to my podcast. It's called The Truth Club. If you type it into any of the podcast places where you listen, it will come up. It's a big cheesy picture of me grinning. You won't miss it. And yeah, it's a fabulous podcast. Very, very funny, I think. And I would love your support by listening to it. Next week we are joined by Eleanor Conway, and we're going to be. Sadly, we're going to have to get back to work, Sarah, and actually read some tarot.
Oh yeah, but I've enjoyed this so far.
Yeah, I forgot that we did that.
It's been great. It's been great. Loving your work.
Good to have a holiday.
Yeah, I've had a great time.
Bloody loved it. Big love, big thank you to Peter. We are so grateful that you've come on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It was brilliant. It was so enlightening. I love listening to you talk. So thank you so much. And everyone who has watched, thank you so much for sticking with us. We love that you guys watch this. So thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone. And have a good full moon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching Tarot Nice to Meet You, which is produced by Comedy Hotspot. See you next Sunday at 7 p.m.